Your emotions are lying to you, but they sound just like your voice. That's the trap. You hear fear and think it's wisdom. You feel anger and call it truth. But most of what your emotions scream at you isn't guidance. It's noise. It's memory, trauma, and impulse masquerading as insight. And the more you trust them blindly, the more they turn you into a puppet. Some people confuse what they feel with who they are. They don't feel angry, they become anger. They don't notice sadness, they drown in it. This is how you lose yourself. Not in massive breakdowns, but in subtle moments of emotional identification repeated 1,000 times. You become what you never meant to be, simply because you never paused to question what you felt. But here's the truth. Emotions aren't meant to control you. They're meant to inform you. Like a dashboard light in your car, they signal something happening inside. That doesn't mean you have to obey every signal. You don't throw your car off a cliff because the engine light comes on. You investigate, you respond with awareness, not reaction. It's time to stop being a slave to every emotional impulse. Let's break this illusion. Emotions are not commands, they're information. Most people confuse the two. They feel something intense and assume it's an instruction. Do this, say that, react now. But that's not how it works. Emotions are just messengers. They tell you what's happening inside you, not what you should do. Think of pain. Physical pain isn't the issue, it points to the issue. If your hand touches a hot stove, pain makes you move. But if you lived your life avoiding all pain, you'd never grow. Same with emotional pain. It's not something to blindly run from or obey, it's something to study. But the modern mind doesn't pause. It reacts. It's been trained by repetition and survival to respond instantly. Feel anger, attack. Feel fear, escape. Feel sadness, isolate. That's not wisdom. That's programming. And if you never question your programming, you stay trapped in it. The key shift is this. Create space between the feeling and the response. That space is your power. When anger hits, ask what boundary got crossed. When anxiety shows up, ask what uncertainty you're resisting. When sadness sinks in, ask what attachment is being threatened. Every emotion carries a deeper message, but you won't hear it if you're too busy reacting. The goal is not to kill emotion. It's to reclaim your seat as the observer. Let emotions speak, but don't let them steer. You're not the voice in your head. You're the one listening. Emotional mastery begins when you stop identifying with the storm and start recognizing you're the sky it passes through. So next time emotion surges, don't say, "This is who I am." Say, "This is what I'm feeling. Now what's it pointing to?" Step back, decode, choose. Because once you understand that emotions are tools, not tyrants, you stop living like a slave to your inner weather and start leading your own mind. Now that you've learned that emotions aren't commands, but they're signals, you can observe and decode. But here's where most people get stuck. They believe they have to obey these emotional signals. Because I'm just an emotional person, or I can't control how I feel. That's not who you are. That's old programming running on autopilot. Nobody taught you emotional discipline. You were trained to express your feelings freely, but not to analyze or regulate them. Being honest about your emotions was encouraged, but being wise about what to do with them, that was left out. Honesty without strategy is just chaos dressed up as authenticity. The reality? You're not powerless, you're untrained. Emotional maturity isn't about stuffing your feelings down or pretending they don't exist. It's about regulation, learning when to hold the reins and when to let go. Like breaking a wild horse, emotions resist control at first, but they can be mastered with consistent work. That horse will kick and buck. That's the nature of emotional reactivity. But it can also learn to carry you forward instead of throwing you off. Emotional regulation is a skill, not a personality trait. It takes patience, discipline, and brutal honesty with yourself to develop. This is where growth happens, outside comfort, inside resistance. Here's a simple but powerful tool. When emotions spike, breathe. Not shallow breaths, but slow, deliberate inhales and exhales. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Breathe out for 6. This calms your nervous system and gives your brain the space to respond instead of react. It's the reset you didn't know you needed. Stop believing the lie that you can't control your emotions. You can. It's not easy, but it's possible. And it starts the moment you decide to train your mind instead of surrendering it. That's emotional mastery. That's real freedom. Now you must take the next step, creating real distance between you and what you feel. This isn't some fluffy self-help cliche. It's a fundamental psychological principle. You are not your emotions. You do not become sadness or anxiety or anger. Instead, you experience them. The difference is enormous because it reveals a gap, a space between your core self and the transient feelings passing through you. This space is your power. It's where choice and control live. Without it, you're trapped, forever fused with whatever emotion strikes, like a leaf caught in a storm. That gap is not just theoretical. It's practical and accessible. It begins with naming your emotions explicitly. When you say, "I am anxious," you're blending yourself with anxiety, effectively becoming its hostage. But when you say, "This is anxiety," you separate yourself from it, becoming the observer. This simple act of labeling is like turning on the lights in a dark room. Suddenly, what felt overwhelming or all-consuming is illuminated and therefore manageable. You strip the emotion of its power to hijack you. Naming creates clarity, and clarity creates distance. But naming alone isn't enough. You have to claim the feeling with a cause. I'm noticing I feel frustration because this situation feels unfair. By articulating both the emotion and its trigger, you step fully into the role of strategist rather than reactor. You stop being at the mercy of your feelings and start using them as data to navigate reality. This shift transforms your internal experience from chaotic waves that knock you off balance into signals you can interpret and respond to intelligently. Emotional intelligence isn't just about understanding feelings, it's about managing them actively. When you witness your emotions like this, you break their grip. You're no longer trapped inside the feeling. Instead, you're the container holding it. This doesn't mean numbing yourself or denying your emotions. Quite the opposite. It means facing them head-on with a clear mind and steady presence. This distance is the foundation of emotional resilience, the difference between being overwhelmed by your feelings and harnessing their energy productively. It's the essential skill that separates those who control their inner world from those who are controlled by it. Cultivating this awareness is not a one-time event. It's a practice that requires daily commitment and brutal honesty. Each moment you pause, name, and claim your feelings, you strengthen your capacity to handle life's challenges without collapsing. This isn't about perfection or quick fixes. It's about relentless self-mastery. The emotional landscape will always be complex and messy, but with consistent work, you carve out a stable ground inside yourself, a place no storm can uproot. So reject the illusion that you are your emotions. You feel them, you watch them, you learn from them, but you never become them. When you master this, you reclaim freedom. Freedom not just from destructive reactions, but from the endless cycle of identification and suffering. That's where real power, clarity, and peace live. Unprocessed emotions don't vanish quietly, they morph. They become toxic residue in your mind and body. Anger that's denied festers into simmering resentment, poisoning your reactions long after the trigger is gone. Grief left unattended hardens into numbness, shutting down parts of your emotional range. Fear buried deep takes the form of rigid control, anxiety, or avoidance that strangles your freedom without you realizing why. This emotional backlog isn't abstract. It's the real reason your relationships unravel and your calm shatters over minor irritations. You lash out not because the present moment demands it, but because past wounds are screaming beneath the surface. Your nervous system is overloaded, carrying unaddressed pain like an unseen weight dragging you down. You're not fighting the current problem. You're battling ghosts. Until you clear that emotional clutter, you're stuck reacting to old battles, not living in the now. Here's the brutal truth: you cannot fix what you refuse to feel. Trying to push emotions down or distract yourself is like refusing to empty a flooded basement. The water just keeps rising, seeping into every corner. To reclaim control, you must let the emotions rise up. Let them speak their truth, no matter how ugly or uncomfortable. Only then can you begin to release their grip and clear the weight they press on your mind and heart. Processing emotions means facing them with brutal honesty and patience. It means sitting with discomfort, not running from it. It means naming the anger, the sadness, the fear, and allowing those feelings to move through you instead of getting stuck. This isn't therapy light or some feel-good mantra. It's gritty emotional work, the kind that breaks you down before it builds you up stronger and more whole. When you do this, the storm doesn't disappear immediately, but the floodwaters recede. Space opens up inside you for clarity, resilience, and calm. This clearing is the foundation for authentic freedom, the kind that doesn't depend on circumstances or fleeting moods. It's your internal reset button, resetting your system so you can respond to life instead of being hijacked by it. The choice is yours. Continue carrying the emotional backlog that controls you, or face it head on. Let it rise, let it speak, let it pass. That's how you clear the weight, and that's how you reclaim your life. Let's be clear. Emotional freedom isn't about feeling less or shutting down. It's the exact opposite. True freedom means you feel more deeply, more honestly. But you don't lose yourself in those feelings. You experience fear without surrendering to paralysis. You feel sadness without being swallowed whole. You recognize anger, but you don't let it cloud your judgment or dictate your actions. This is emotional depth married to grounded presence. Emotional mastery isn't a battle for control in the traditional sense. It's not about suppressing emotions or forcing them into submission. It's about cultivating clarity, seeing your emotions as part of the landscape rather than the landscape itself. It's knowing the difference between being tossed around by every wave of feeling and steering the ship through the storm with intention and calm. When you operate from this place, your emotional life becomes a source of strength rather than weakness. Fear fuels courage instead of panic. Sadness becomes a teacher, not a tomb. Anger sharpens your focus instead of burning bridges. You become a strategist in your inner world, navigating emotions with awareness instead of being swept away by them. This level of emotional freedom demands honesty and courage. You have to stop hiding from your feelings or pretending they don't affect you. You must stare them down, feel them fully, and then choose your response with deliberate intention. The payoff? You gain a kind of internal sovereignty that no external event can shake. The freedom to feel deeply and stay grounded is the real definition of resilience. It's not about emotionless calm, but about emotional wisdom, knowing when to hold fast, when to adapt, and when to move forward. This mastery frees you from reactive cycles and gives you space to live fully and authentically. So stop chasing numbness or instant relief. Seek emotional clarity. Feel everything, but don't let anything own you. That's how you become emotionally free. That's how you reclaim your mind, your peace, and your life. You're not broken, you're just untrained. That's the brutal truth nobody tells you, and it's the best news you'll ever hear. Your emotions aren't enemies or uncontrollable forces. They're tools. Tools designed to give you information, not dictate your reality. You don't need to fear them, avoid them, or hide from them. You need to face them squarely, feel them fully, and then frame them with your conscious mind. When you catch yourself spiraling or overwhelmed, stop and remind yourself of this simple truth. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. They are passing phenomena inside you, like clouds moving through the sky. The real you, the unshakable you, is the awareness behind those clouds. That's the place where peace lives, That's where your power starts. This is no quick fix. It's not a one-time breakthrough or some inspirational moment. It's a daily practice of standing firm in awareness, refusing to be owned by your inner storms. The journey is hard and uncomfortable, but it's the path to true freedom. You become the master of your mind instead of its slave. So own your power. Train your mind like a warrior trains their body. Face your emotions with brutal honesty and unwavering presence. Because only when you reclaim your emotional authority can you live fully, clearly, and on your own terms. That's the real victory.